jobs is safe from being replaced by AI. Creative jobs like musicians, artists, programmers, those are the first jobs that's being impacted in a major way.
Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tech Break, the TD Synnex video podcast, where we usually take a break from work and talk about, you guessed it, technology. My name is Alexander Pontikis, and I'm the Nordic GTM lead for Microsoft Azure. Today, we're going to talk about perhaps the hottest topic in the industry, generative artificial intelligence, OpenAI, Azure OpenAI, and what the impact will be on our productivity, how we get information presented and how it makes more sense, but also how it will change our lives, both personally and professionally. Currently, as we are recording this, venture capital firms are on a real shopping spree as they are investing heavily in companies within the space of generative AI. When we speak about this topic, you tend to look over a longer period of time. What will this mean for humanity in 50 or even 100 years? However, today we would like to isolate the benefits of generative AI, the platforms and the product ChatGPT, and what it can mean for organizations today. So in order to do that, we've asked Johan Nordberg, Cloud Solution Architect from Microsoft, to help us get through that topic. Welcome to the show, Johan.
Thank you, Alexander. Glad to be here.
Thank you. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start off a little bit setting the scene for this topic today. So correct me if I'm wrong here. OpenAI, would you describe that as a research institute?
I think it's started like a alternative to Google's closed AI department, and hence the name OpenAI. And they did a lot of AI research. Now it's up to debate how open they really are, and who the owners are really, like those kind of questions. So I think it's more like a venture than a research facility in practice. But they are still doing amazing work.
Fantastic. And would you like just to tell us a little bit about how the relationship between OpenAI and Microsoft kind of started?
Sure. A couple of years ago, Microsoft invested in OpenAI, mainly because they wanted the technology, but also to help OpenAI with the compute power on Azure. So it's super expensive to train these gigantic models, and Azure can really help with that. So that was one appeal, I guess, from OpenAI's point of view, to get access to Azure and Microsoft's support.
Hence the enormous investments, as we've seen.
Yeah, it's a lot more than my salary.
Yeah, yeah, mine as well.
Yeah.
Don't get me fooled. So there's a lot of different, let's say, the terminology is a bit in of an array. So just a little question to get, let's say, the descriptions of the platforms and the products a little, more organized. What would you say is the difference between ChatGPT and Azure OpenAI?
ChatGPT is a product or an application that uses the GPT models. And the biggest thing with that is that they use the GPT models, but also give some sort of a memory. So they actually knows what you just talked about and that they continue that conversation. So ChatGPT is a product that OpenAI has created using the GPT models. And for Azure, Azure also has access to these models, but have separate products using them. One of them is like a ChatGPT-like thing that you can use to create your own specialized version of ChatGPT. And you can also use these models to do a lot of things, like working with code, generating text, generating images, etc.
Wow. So that gives you really a framework, a lot of possibilities.
Yes. So maybe we can look at the models as the platform, and ChatGPT is a product built on that platform.
if we would just elaborate a little bit about the value and the, let's say, possibilities around Azure OpenAI.
Yeah. So I think there are many reasons to choose Azure OpenAI APIs instead of going directly to OpenAI website. They have APIs as well. They are very similar to the Azure OpenAI APIs. But the benefits you get with Azure is that you can integrate with other Azure services. You have better privacy, that you know that the data you are using stays within your tenant. And you can use other security features like virtual private networking or VNets to more secure your data and the rest of your application.
Yeah.
So it's more like, think of ChatGPT as the fun consumer product, and Azure OpenAI is what you use to build business applications or build things that consumer use, but still it's more like a business proposition than a fun toy for consumer.
Right. So for, let's say, from the privacy aspect, it could be appealing to perhaps public customers or, let's say, municipalities, or would you say that it's a good fit there?
For those, they might have the same problems that they usually do with trusting the cloud. Working hard on fixing that.
Right.
It's more like a trust issue than a technical issue, I think, at this time. But I think more like if you want to create something with your business data, you know that this data won't be part of any further training of the models. It won't leak to the public internet. Your data is still your data when it's used on Azure, just as it is if you would use like a blob storage or a container. This is no different. It's still your data. It's not used for anything else than what you're building.
Which means that it could even make more sense that it is your data and the data that you're used to.
Yeah.
I would assume.
Yes, exactly. And you can use your data to build things with these models. For instance, you can combine it with like Azure Cognitive Search. If you ever use that to have a more traditional indexed search, you can use that in combination with the GPT models to build like a chat around your data. That's if you ever use the Bing chat, it can be very similar to that it's very grounded in the truth in your data. You get source references that you can click on, like, okay, I found this answer in this document at this line. So you always know where this data comes from. So it's not just a creative process that the model makes it up. It's grounded in truth.
Exactly. You mentioned the Bing. So from an outsider, I believe that you had a tremendous success with Bing, like a search in, how would you like to call it, demand for Bing? As you implemented this technology, right?
Yes, and probably also the Edge browser. I've been using Chrome forever, and the last couple of months I noticed that I started using Bing more, and I use Edge more.
Right.
So that's, I mean, I would not have expected that anything in the near future could challenge Google when it comes to search. So that was I think, big surprise to many people. And now it's actually seems like a possibility.
Absolutely, because let's say the cost of the time for changing a browser is much less than, let's go change the ERP system to Dynamics.
Exactly.
And that has got a lot of people really excited. This sudden shift, which at least I've been reading about in the media as well. So these are very, very interesting times. So going back, so we were a little bit into being and more how it faces the consumer. So if we go back a little bit to let's say the companies, let's say the B2B market. So if you're, let's say, a mid-sized or an enterprise organization and you would like to implement this technology for some sort of business process, or could be customer service department, customer success department. You get to pick. If you were to give like your top advice for such an end customer before implementing technology, what would you give them?
Probably that it's not as easy as just typing something in the ChatGPT text box and think that it will perform magic. It requires planning and work under the hood still to do these things. So it's treated like any other software project, I think. And also, I would also recommend that now we talk about generative AI and these GPT models a lot. Don't forget that, for instance, Azure Cognitive Services has a lot of AI services that is highly specialized in doing one or two things and is excellent at doing that. So don't go with like the most expensive, heavy GPT-4 model just because it's out there. Figure out, what do I need to do? Which model is best suitable for this? Are there other services that are even better at this? So think of what you need and use your time and money and knowledge accordingly.
Make sure not to miss out Azure Cognitive Services. So I'm sure you will be able to find it online pretty easily.
Yeah, and maybe I should clarify that in cognitive services, you have things like image recognition. You can parse forms. Like if you have 100,000 PDF documents that are, say, tax form. It's tax season in Sweden. You can extract structural data from a image or a PDF document and get that. And you have translation services. You have text to speech and speech to text. There are a lot of services that are not OpenAI models that are still super relevant and super specialized at that thing and does that very well. And you can combine those with the GPT models. So look at the whole toolbox, not just a new hammer.
Exactly, and I get all these ideas about enhancing efficiency, productivity based on the data that we already have. So again, I think we are in the beginning of a really interesting journey, and also a technology which I guess a lot of end customers can really relate to through ChatGPT, and hopefully we will inspire them.
I think that ChatGPT really showed that the UI can be super simple to do very powerful stuff. I realized I didn't really answer your question. I got all technical.
No, you did.
But we also have a project called Semantic Kernel, which is like an orchestrator to build things with all these different steps. So you can take, like, when I get input from your voice command, I want to translate that to text. And then I want to take that text and translate it from Swedish to Spanish. And then I want to do some generative thing with an OpenAI model. And then I want to take that result to get back to text. So you can like chain those together in a big pipeline and help with that. Because that kind of work is what's needed when using these models. So have a look at that. And I think will be really helpful to actually build stuff.
Absolutely. So that was also one of the kind of sub questions I had in mind before preparing for this. So it means that you have a really good foundation for making this available in all different languages.
Yes.
Making the impact even more bigger.
So you can ask a question in your native language, even though the source information is in English or in Spanish and then you can get it back in the correct language as well.
Yeah. That is
which I think if you ever try to make ChatGPT do a poem or rhyme for you, you know that the words are correct, but it doesn't rhyme.
No.
And that is probably because they translated my Swedish request to English, write the poem, it rhymes perfectly, and then translated it back to Swedish, and now not so much anymore.
Right.
So I think if you really look, you can see what's happening behind the curtain.
Really mind-blowing.
Yeah.
So going deeper into the, let's say, subject about applying the technologies, have you any experience so far, Johan, about any any examples where Azure OpenAI and all the, let's say, members, different products or possibilities in the Azure platform family has really provided like a solid business value? Could you tell us a little examples about?
Yeah, we have shown quite a few demos of Microsoft 365 Copilot. And the Copilot word here, even in GitHub Copilot and Office Microsoft 365 Copilot, the Copilot word is important because it's not meant to replace you. It's meant to help you. You are the chief of your work, but we can help you do it more efficiently. Even I can't test it myself yet, so it's really new.
That's too bad because we prepared a demo section.
Yeah, exactly. I wish I could do that.
Kidding.
I get a lot of questions lately. Can you come show us this? Yes, I wish I could. I can show you some videos.
Maybe next time.
Maybe next time, hopefully.
We'll have a giant screen here, and
but you can see like hints of what's coming right now. For instance, we have an internal service called Meeting Catch Up. That meetings that you have missed and was recorded, you can see them afterwards, and you can ask the meeting questions. And I think that is like a alpha version of what's coming to Teams later, that you can really chat with meetings you missed or in Outlook. And then we have for Word and PowerPoint, you can generate content with a prompt. So you, can you take this document I wrote and make a PowerPoint presentation based on it? Oh, these slides look like it's a lot of text. Can you replace that with more images instead? And can you add animation to this? And things like that. So things you know in your head what you want to do, but you don't necessarily know how to do it. I think this will be super helpful in there. And Excel as well. I mean, we know, everyone knows that Excel can do a lot of powerful stuff, but most people just still struggles with a VLOOKUP formula.
Right.
Yeah. So
right.
now you can use your natural language to make Excel do what you want it to do. And this is important, I think. It will explain what it did and how it did, so you can learn.
So I mean, applying all this tremendous technology into the Office apps, which you have a huge installed base already on. So this could apply to, technically every kind of vertical knowledge worker or not, or just a regular employee. Possibilities are endless. So I have heard that you've been involved in a bigger industry vertical in some, really, let's say, proof of concept cases, or is there any end customer that has done, let's say, a bigger project where you can see where the investment really has paid off?
Yeah. Not sure if they're actually using the OpenAI models, but they definitely use AI. And it's a customer that work with industrial heat pumps, and they've built a camera that they can scan the heat pumps and discover if it's in need of service. And with this, they can see okay, we need to clean this filter or whatever it is that they do. And the result of doing this is using a lot less manpower to do the same thing, but they also manage to save huge amount of energy just to make sure that the heat pumps are served and serviced correctly. So just by raising your camera, scanning the heat pump, and okay, the airflow is not optimal here, so let's clean the filter or service this. And again, I think it was 50-60% energy savings just by doing this alone. It's amazing.
Absolutely, and those kind of, let's say, success stories, or in my mind, it could really pave the way for let's say IT partners, IT providers can perhaps address other lines of businesses than just IT and infrastructure, right?
And maybe inspire others to think I have this problem. Is this even solvable? I mean, if someone would have told me 5 years ago that they can point a camera and see if a heat pump needs service, that would be insane. And now it's already happening, and those kind of stories, to me at least, makes me think that other crazy ideas might be possible as well.
Right. So great stories. So we touched also about Copilot a little bit earlier on. So we mentioned some of the apps. Is there? Did we mention them all? We mentioned
Copilot will be practically everywhere. So the Office apps, of course, but we also have it in Power Platform. And one thing that you can test right now, if you have Power Platform, is to create a virtual assistant that uses the GPT-like chat feature. So it's literally just a checkbox and a text field where you enter the URL to, for instance, your website, and then you have a chatbot that you can chat with your website, and it feels really fluent instead of like the traditional call center. Press 1 for or
absolutely. Yeah, we've been through a lot of those.
Exactly. And when those where you're trying to talk to them, and they never understand what you say, and this will be like as well as ChatGPT can understand you, it will do that as well. And for this is not released yet, but in Power Apps, you will be able to use natural language to create apps. So you, let's say, create an app that sends an email every time Alexander posts this on Twitter or things like that. So more automation things and with natural language. And Power BI has the same. I want to create a report that gets X from Y presented as C. So it's really like English or our natural language is the new programming language.
So let's also see what Microsoft will reveal on. You have Inspire coming up, I would assume.
Yeah, Build. Microsoft Build.
Microsoft Build,
yes.
Yeah, right.
So that is the more developer-focused conference.
Right.
And so, I also think that GitHub Copilot is, oh my God, it's amazing. It helps me so much.
Yeah. So given, let's say, people use vast amounts of code to faster time for execution, for I would assume you help me fill in here.
Yeah, I've been a developer for like forever, and now what GitHub Copilot can help me with is like I start to write some code. Say I want to create a function that is called calculate area from rect type, like something like that. And that is based on the name I gave it. It just assumes like, oh, you want to do this, and then it do the code for me. And then sometimes it's perfect. Sometimes I need to tweak it a little bit, but it still saves me so much time and also gives me ideas on how can I do things, like especially for things that is really simple or repeatable. You can just make it do it. And if you're not sure, you can ask it, like write a comment that says, I want to do this. And then it will give you suggestions. So it's a great, I use that so much more now than first Googling, finding a link that goes to Stack Overflow, hopefully find some code, copy that code, try it. And also it can translate between languages. So if I find a perfect example of something written in Java and I want it in C#, ask ChatGPT, can you translate this to C#? Sure.
Yeah, I mean, just start to think about if you take all these little tasks and which how much it reduces times and you multiply that.
Exactly.
I mean, in bottom line, your time to execution or to delivery would be vastly reduced.
Yeah, and it can also help with things like, I have this piece of code. Can you explain this to me? Or I have written this function. Can you write a unit test for me? Or here's a regular expression. I have no idea what this does because I wrote it 6 months ago. Can you explain it to me? And so it's super helpful for beginners and also for advanced users.
So as we are touching a little bit about our role, like should we frame this? If we look at looking through the crystal ball, with all this technology, as we've seen, moving at a rapid pace, we've even seen requests like the open letter that was wrote from some tech pioneers, slowing down the development, if it's even possible. The question is, what do you think if we allow ourselves to look, either a couple of decades down the road, what will be the role of the human being? Us human beings with respect to the technology. How will our role change, do you think?
Oh, that's a tough question. Just going back 30 years and imagine what life would be today, it's pretty insane. But I hope that maybe we can automate the boring stuff and do more of the things that gives us joy. I don't even if AI get really good at writing poems or books or writing music or generating images, I still believe we will do these things because we don't do it because we think we can sell them. We do it because we liked it, and I don't see why we. I don't enjoy writing code less because there's millions of people that can do it better than me. I find it creative and I find it fun. So if I can automate away the boring stuff and do more of that, that would be amazing. I also think that we could solve a lot of illnesses, and not just cure, but solve. But it's really hard to. Would you have predicted 1 year ago that this would exist today?
No, not really.
No.
You got me there.
and another thing, if you look back just like 5 years ago, we talked about what jobs is safe from being replaced or changed by AI, and I think most people were quite sure that creative jobs like musicians, artists, programmers, or things that really like create things, those are safe jobs. And what happens now? Those are the first jobs that's being impacted in a major way. So it's hard to know what the future holds, for sure.
But do you still think that we will have the role, at least for now, to be able to calibrate the kind of information we get out of the technology? Like, okay, so this last piece of code doesn't make sense, or...
I think we still will need knowledge to make sense of these things. I can't think of anything that replaces the need for knowledge. If you've ever talked to a customer, they have one version of the truth of what they want to build, but in order to make them really happy, you have to take their prompt and translate it into what they really want. And I think AI will be amazing at doing exactly what you say, but I think it will take a lot of more time for it to create what you actually meant. So I don't know. It's an interesting future for sure.
Absolutely. So we're in the beginning of, I would just say, of again a very interesting journey, and that concludes today's episode. I would like to thank you so much for being with us here today, Johan.
Thank you.
And we'll hope to see you soon.
It will be interesting to see how much of what we've talked about today is still relevant next week.
Absolutely. So we should do a check-up on that one.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, switch that. That's old stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.